Welcome back to the ESPN Hoops and Hits podcast presented by Tab, and welcome back to the Grub, and welcome back to the Scope, and welcome back to the Duo. We are back.
We're back, man. We've left for a little bit, but we are back.
Yeah. Shout out to Benyam, obviously, who filled in for the 2 weeks when I was away first, and then you're away last week. But we got to start off. Congratulations, mate. Baby girl,
mate.
How good?
What a little blessing she is, mate. I was saying before, I just sit there and I just look at her for hours, and she got her first NFL fixed. She was up at 5 a.m. Sunday morning. I said, I'll take this one. Yeah, so amazing, mate.
It's one of the benefits of having a baby. I remember this, getting up nice and early and watching US sports on ESPN. You get the NFL, you get it nice and early in the morning. You can get straight into the NBA. So not only have you had something special like that in your life, it's still giving you reps for this show, so we keep on ticking along.
It's work. I'm watching way more NBA during the day. I'm not popping into work. Got a little bit of a break now, so yeah, it's great, mate. And she's going to be a Philly fan through and through.
Okay, feel it. All right. Hopefully you weren't too fatigued waking up at 5 a.m. by the Jake Paul fight against Mike Tyson on Sunday. We also had the UFC. We'll dive into that. Your Eagles are on fire. Maybe that's a good omen too with baby girl on the way. The Bills break the Chiefs' undefeated streak. We talked about the Bills being that team that we were worried about on the remaining schedule, and that did come to fruition. Dyson Daniels is a huge shout for most improved player, defensive player of the year, and he's even in an exclusive club with the greatest of all time, Michael Jordan. And we've got a special interview with an NBA Hall of Famer. I'll let you know later on the show.
How good.
You ready to go, mate?
Let's go, man. Let's get into it.
All right, let's get on to Left on Red. And kicking it off on Facebook, and this comes from Michael Michaels. The heavyweight fight between these two is the visual representation of LeBron James facing Michael Jordan in the finals. All Facts 100. I don't know who's going to be LeBron James, and if he's comparing LeBron James to John Jones, but if so, I don't like it. John Jones, he cements his GOAT status with a win over Stipe Miocic. Thoughts on the fight, mate?
First things first, Horror, can we get a rib check on Miocic? Oh, man.
He's got everything in the bag, John Jones.
Man, like, that kick was just... in the start of this fight, I feel he was very measured. John Jones, he can be very aggressive at times. He landed a couple of nice right hands in the second, but I feel he won this fight on his fight IQ. He sort of set him up. He mixed his strikes, and he set him up at the end for that finish. It was sort of like a trap. And that little gap that he got that kick through was unbelievable. I think he felt all of 42 after that kick, and Miocic retired after that. And I don't know, for me, when I watch John Jones, it makes me proud, because does it look like he has had 15 or so schooners at the pub that week and just come to fight, and he's a good scrapper, but he's the GOAT.
One thing you mentioned there, IQ, when you think about different styles of fights, and for me, John Jones is my favorite UFC fighter of all time. He has the GOAT status. I know Dana's a big fan of John Jones. He continually tells everyone as well. But he can win in multiple ways. All fighters, they've got their bread and butter, and he can wrestle with the best of them and come up with submissions, but he can also knock you out. And depending on the fight, the way he can pick apart an opponent and take his time. And he must do a whole heap. I don't know if he does a whole heap of video or study before, but he always looks like he sort of knows the moves and how it's almost how the fight's going to plan out. So I've got one here, and this is a bit of a hypothetical, or this is a hypothetical. If you've got a fight to the death, and I'll give you 4 competitors. So John Jones is one. Prime, this is all in their prime.
Yep.
Mike Tyson is another guy. Put him in a cage. Floyd Mayweather, Anderson Silva. Who comes out alive out of the fight to the death?
Mayweather will run away the whole time. I think
best defensive boxer of all time will have to defend.
He'd defend. I still think Jones would get him somehow.
Yeah.
Iron Mike would just be throwing haymakers trying to knock him out. I think Jones would get under him.
Biting is...
Oh, you think he'd go in for the
It's a fight to the death. It's a fight to the death.
Well, I sort of didn't think of that.
Yeah,
so it's a street fight.
It's basically, it's a cage fight. who's coming out alive. You throw all four in there.
Yeah.
I think Floyd, unfortunately, due to weight, he's
out.
He's eventually they're going to catch him in a cage. Anderson Silva next, and I think it depends on who comes out of John Jones and Mike Tyson. What do you reckon?
I'm going to go John Jones, as you just said, the IQ. I think old A and Mate would be a little bit. But the one thing I will say before we finish on this one, what about his little Trump?
Oh, so good.
Do you like it?
I love it.
I reckon 8 out of 10. I liked it.
Yeah, it was pretty good. And it actually caught on. And it went all the way into the NFL over the weekend as well. So I love those celebrations. Everyone's having a bit of fun with it. And he was looking straight at him too when he was doing it. I found that hilarious. The other fight on the night was a doozy as well. And this one comes from Anton Bickley. Now show a photo of the middle of the ring. Backward slam. Boy, inspirational. And this is referring to Oliveira versus Chandler. Oliveira survives a late scare to beat Chandler, but those body slams were highly entertaining as well.
I just loved how Chandler was laughing, and he knew he'd lost the fight. He's just holding on. He's like sort of getting everyone to pump the crowd. He just goes bang. It was a great fight, but I will say
that must be super fatiguing too, doing that. Like to be sort of half getting choked out.
I was laughing my head off. I don't know why. It was so funny.
It was a funny card. It was
funny.
a funny card.
Yeah. I just feel okay. What happened back to Oliveira? Like, was that an eye poke? Because when he got that punch, it sort of stunned him.
Yeah,
like Chandler was gone the whole fight.
Do you reckon? So when they throw him sometimes with, I think sometimes I reckon it happens more often than people think with the little eye poke there.
Because it's stunned him.
Accidental.
Yeah, no, 100% it was accidental.
Yeah.
But it was just the way he reacted. He was gone. And I think if Chandler connects with that next punch, there was a bit of a haymaker and he missed him and slipped, I think he wins the fight. I really do.
He's powerful, man, Chandler.
He's powerful, mate. Like, he wasn't in the fight. It was, Charles was dominant the whole fight. He took Chandler to ground multiple times. It was a mismatch in that sense. Like, I just feel Chandler was throwing caution in the wind, and every time he would, he got taken down. But, Oliveira has come out and said that it was one of his toughest opponents, and he said he will be in the front row of Chandler's next fight. That's how much respect he has
there
for
you
him
go. That's nice.
As an athlete. But
Chandler's a bit of a late bloomer, isn't he? He's sort of coming to the UFC the sort of last 4 or 5 years. He's super dangerous, but when it comes to technically sound fighters like Oliveira, then he's probably just he's out of that category.
You know what? The one thing I will say is in the UFC, it just goes to show you can be so dominant all fight, and you have one punch. That's all it takes, and
that's the beauty of UFC, right?
Awesome.
Like there are so many ways you can get beaten. You've got to be well rounded, and both Oliveira and John Jones are very good, pretty much good at everything, and then obviously they've got their bread and butter too.
And I feel they change per fight. Like
you've got to be able to adapt.
Everyone feels, like, oh, John Jones is going to do this, or I just feel he's like, no, I'll do what I want. He went into that, speaking back to him about that fight, he sort of went in a little bit cautious, but then when he knows that his moment, he takes it.
Moving on to the boxing, and this one comes from Parker Shireen. Just simple, boring. He's put a picture of Jake Paul there. He beats Mike Tyson by unanimous decision. He's got more wins than Jerry World, and the Cowboys said that is our man producer Shabs chucking that in for sure.
Love it.
Grub or no grub, get the paddle. Man. It's been a minute fighting a 60-year-old man.
Straight up.
Straight grub.
There's no question.
No thought.
There's no question. That hurt me to watch that fight. Like, I actually felt really bad for Iron Mike. Like, his knee wasn't right. He couldn't go sideways. He couldn't go backwards. Look, and the thing is, Jake Paul can throw him. He's a smart boxer. He's got dynamite. He's got dynamite hands. But why are you fighting that fight, man? Like, I just feel it's a bit embarrassing. I really do. Like, it's a lose-lose for you, Jake. If you lose to 58-year-old Mike Tyson, that's embarrassing. But if you beat him, it's no real feat. And the worst thing is as well, he comes out and he says after the fight, yeah, I looked after him. I couldn't. No, just don't say that. I just let him. You don't have to say that.
Because you get into...
We know that.
We know. We watch the fight.
It killed me for him to say that. But then this could have been... This is a grub moment. I'm bringing in a grub moment.
Go.
One of the best sporting moments could have been created when Jake Paul was doing his smug bow. Mike Tyson left hooks him and he's out forever. That is a grub moment.
Forever.
I would do.
Forever.
That's it. I would have absolutely loved that. Imagine seeing that. That would be the funniest thing I've ever seen. But Yeah, I wasn't a real fan of it, mate.
Mate, I haven't been a big fan of the Jake Paul fights. I just, it's always sort of like this. You're always left sort of disappointed. You're a little bit angry. All the sort of emotions. That is the reason he makes so much money. He pays the opposition so much money. Mike gets the 20 mil. Who do you want to see Jake Paul fight next?
Well,
I got one name. There's only one guy that I want to see that would get me interested in another Jake Paul fight.
you go first.
Conor McGregor.
I'm in.
Yeah.
That's what I was just about to say. Yeah. He said after the fight he'll fight him in MMA.
Yeah.
Mate, if he does that, honestly, I don't have any respect for Jake Paul right now. He just does it. He's not my person.
Yeah.
He's for the younger generation. He's
he's
that
not my guy
influencer. I dislike him.
Yeah.
But no, I do. I'm being straight up.
Yeah,
but at the same time, if he gets in the MMA ring with Conor McGregor, I don't care what weight. Doesn't matter.
I think it would be entertaining to see him in the boxing ring. Like Conor's awesome. He did well enough with Floyd in that fight. And, Conor and Jake seems like they're a little bit more enhanced than the typical fighter is the best way of putting it. I reckon no rules sort of go into it. Just try to bash each other.
Bare knuckle.
And everyone always talks about the script with Jake Paul and these sorts of fights. I don't think Conor's the guy. He's the sort of guy or athlete to take a fight and stick to the script too, like you were talking about before. So I think Conor and Jake Paul would go hard at each other.
I got a question for you, Hoz. What do you think of the Netflix production of it all?
It's you know what? It's so smart. They've got themselves in the market now. Shout out to the fight before with the women's, the girls that I had no idea who they were leading into this. So again, you're getting people interested in a new form of fighting, and that's the way of the world. You don't like the influencers; they're here to stay, and you'll probably end up watching. If he does fight Conor McGregor.
But it's just at the same time, it's like, just the commentary and everything around it.
It was a bit over the top.
It was a bit a lot. You got Shaq and Gronk coming in doing pitches, but no, it was awesome. But that honestly, women's fight before, best nearly women's sporting event I've seen ever.
Oh wow,
I know that's a big call. I've never seen anyone go after each other so much.
They went out. That's the second time they've fought, and they're talking about going again for the third one as well. So,
absolute Warriors.
Moving on to Facebook, and we are going to talk about the Cavs. Hayden Tweedy wrote this: as long as my team stays healthy, I don't see why they can't be at the top of the East this year. Cavs remain unbeaten to start the season. Can they go all the way?
I just think it's too early to say whether they can. I love their team.
Yep.
Donovan Mitchell playing MVP level at the moment. Garland he's had a big year.
It's the relationship between Garland and Mitchell that's improved out of sight. When Mitchell first got traded there, I don't think they didn't mesh well.
Yeah, okay.
But they're playing together really well now. They're playing as a duo. I thought going into last year, I thought they're going to have to trade one or the other. Most likely Garland, because they gave up a lot to get Donovan Mitchell, but Mobley, Allen, they're well balanced.
I find with Garland too, he broke his jaw last year. He was a bit skinny. There was rumours that he was going to get traded, but this year he's come back and he's going to be an all-star. And I think that's a big thing, Hoz. I think that happens in teams like, it's like, look, it's not about you, it's not about me. Let's win a chip. Let's go win that, and they're doing that together at the moment. I just think Kenny Atkinson has realised that Mitchell can't do it himself, and their bench has been unbelievable, helping them with this streak.
Yep.
It's sort of a really shared load. He manipulates the lineup sometimes according to who they're playing. Like I've watched them a couple of nights in a row, and two totally different lineups, and you're like, what's he done? But then they're methodical.
Yeah.
They're all on the same page.
Staying in the basketball in the NBA, and this one comes from Instagram, and it comes from Zion Raya. Dyson Vacuum is the nickname, and that is for Dyson Daniels, as he has equaled a Michael Jordan record. So Daniels has joined Michael Jordan as the only two players in history to score 15-plus points and have 5-plus steals in 4 straight games.
How good is it to see an Aussie 21-year-old taking over the NBA?
So good.
And
is he 21? Is he
21?
Well,
yeah. Like I love. He went toe-to-toe with Tatum and kept Tatum to 21 points, 5 of 16 shooting. Not many people do that.
He's so busy, mate. He's got busy hands.
I'm very biased here, but I think that's the Aussie in him.
Yeah.
He's a bit rugged.
Yeah.
Like his shooting's got to get like a little bit better and stuff. But in defense, I feel he always knows he's a play ahead.
Yeah.
And people get frustrated. You can see Tatum's was falling to his right to take that shot he likes, and he just wasn't letting him have it. And I just love seeing that. I think his stint with the Boomers would have gave him a lot of confidence going in. And the only thing is now he's gone so well, but Trae Young, he's going to come back, and sort of what happens there when he comes back. But he's going unbelievable, and his defense it's going to get him one of the awards at the end of the year. Hopefully,
yeah, he's going to be thereabouts. I think he is second on the betting for both. For Defensive Player of the Year, Victor Wembanyama is still heavy favourite, and then you've got a mix. He's in the mix of about 4 or 5 players for Most Improved as well. So he's putting up really good numbers. I think he can stay to continue to this because Trae Young is not known for his defense. So if you have a guy next to Dyson Daniels in the shooting guard position that can sort of do it all, I think he's a good mesh. And considering they gave away DeJounte Murray as part of the deal to get Dyson Daniels, I feel like that deal was one of those ones that'll work out well for both. This one comes from our man, producer Shabs, and obviously he's all Eagles. So I feel like we just get too much Eagles content on this show with you and Shaz. But the question is, if Saquon Barkley makes this catch here, is he the clear MVP leader? That's going back to week 3 against the Falcons. I think it was a 4th and 2 opportunity. I like the play call. They didn't come up with the play. But Saquon, ever since then, he has been trending upwards.
Unbelievable. And yeah, look, I'm not going to be biased here, but I think offensively, you've got let's talk MVPs. Lamar.
Yep.
He's definitely up there. After yesterday, they didn't win. Bit of a scare. Josh Allen on fire.
Yep.
Really
I think Josh Allen took
Cooper.
him over on the weekend with Lamar losing to Steelers and Josh Allen beating the Chiefs.
You got Goff, Mr. Consistency.
Yep.
They're favourites to win the whole thing now, Detroit. So you can't go past him. My Smokey, Jaden Daniels, he's not going to get it, but I just like what he's done. But Saquon, every week he does something freaky.
Yeah.
Every single week. And it just scares me because it's very hard to get it if you're not a quarterback.
Every year there is a Saquon Barkley. Last year it was Christian McCaffrey. I think the year before it was Justin Jefferson. The year before that it was Cooper Kupp. There's always a position player that is in the MVP argument, but they're never going to win it. And unfortunately, that's Saquon again this year. I had a look at his run home. Compared to Derrick Henry, I think those two are going to go head-to-head for Offensive Player of the Year. But I think Saquon, with this form and where the Eagles are going, Offensive Player of the Year, but unfortunately, it's a quarterback position award, for the MVP. So therefore, I think it's between Lamar and Josh Allen.
The last one to get it was AP 2012 running back. So that's a long time ago. But I will just say another little Eagles very proud moment. I think the offensive line is really helping him. They don't get many raps. They really don't. But they're opening up those spaces for him constantly. And I love hearing him talk about them. He always talks about how he's going well.
Yep.
But he always talking about his teammates.
The pivotal moment, the tush push against the Giants, I think that was crucial. That showed him back in his offensive line and his coach and Jalen Hurts. The Bills and the Chiefs. This is the Chiefs' first loss, and it breaks the unbeaten streak for the Chiefs. The first loss for the Chiefs since 2023. Are the Chiefs going to have an Eagles-type year in 2023 that the Eagles had where they started the season so good? Can you envision the Chiefs falling off the cliff at the back end of the season, or are the Chiefs the Chiefs?
No, definitely not. You can't compare them to the Eagles because we had Hurts and Sirianni carrying on about who was the kingpin, and that's why I don't necessarily think we were 10-1 and we dropped. It was some poor things happened within the walls at the Eagles. The defense, the coordinators switched. Jalen Hurts was getting blitzed left, right, and center. Didn't know what to do. So I don't think that's going to happen. This is Patty Mahomes we're talking about.
The back-to-back champs.
The back-to-back champs. So that is definitely not going to happen. But I will say, on the weekend, Kansas City did struggle to get pressure on Josh Allen. That 4-man pass rush, they couldn't get any pressure. They've got good corners usually. Weren't in the game. And the one thing, for the Bills, let's talk about the Bills for 1 second. If they're going to go any further, this is the first time they've shut down Travis Kelce. He's usually their Achilles heel in games. He has big games against them, but he only caught 2 passes for 8 yards. So that is big. And if teams look at that, because he's his man.
Yeah.
Whenever he's in trouble, he goes to Kelsey. But look, they won yesterday, but we know when it comes to playoff time, KC take care of the Bills, man.
See, that's what I'm worried about for any other team playing the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, they're having a down year offensively compared to years past where they've put up really big numbers. Kelsey's always going to be a factor in playoffs. He's getting a little bit older. I think probably Kelsey's maybe got this year and next year left. I think he'd be mid-30s. So, but I do feel like with the record they've got, the franchise that they are, the mentality, the team environment, they'll find a way. This is always the game for me that worried me. I think they'll probably drop another game. I think the Denver Broncos are becoming sneaky good. I think the Chargers are still on their schedule, so they've got a couple of rivals in their division that can give them a little bit of trouble at the back end of the season, but I can't envision anything like the Eagles. It's time to get to the stalemate. We're going to go to my division, and the Packers beat the Bears on the weekend, but by no means, you text me straight after. I was not convinced on the Packers just as much as I'm not convinced on the Bears this year. But the topic is Caleb at fault for what's happening with the Bears currently and their collapse? So we took it to Twitter. 30% said no, but a majority vote, 70% say yes, Caleb Williams is the problem. What's your thoughts on Caleb Williams and what's happening at the Bears?
Twitter always knows. Twitter always knows.
They do know.
They know. But okay, I don't like blaming individuals, but Caleb Williams, yes, he's a problem at the moment. But I will say, let's talk about that last drive against you guys. A few of those, those back shoulder passes that he put on point. Not many people can do that in pressure situations. So, yep, his last 3 games have been poor. 50% pass, 50% completed, 0 touchdowns, 18 sacks. He's been terrible. But in big moments against division rivals, look, it's at home, which is in their favour. But I liked what I saw.
He did enough to get the win.
He did. He won him that game. I feel he did enough. I just think they got to make it a bit easier for him. They've got rid of their offensive coordinator Shane Waldron now.
Yep.
Keenan Allen, I found it interesting. He came out in an article and said that he was a great guy, but he just tried to please everyone and didn't want to make hard decisions. And he said he felt that crept into Caleb's game.
Oh, wow.
He really did. And it's funny, Hoz, isn't it? Like, assistant coaches, they're usually the mates. They're usually your mates. But at the same time, you want to be held accountable.
Of course.
You do. So in comes Thomas Brown, new assistant. He said he's going to be a little bit more creative. At the same time, he said he wants to take Caleb Williams from a college superstar to a consistent NFL player. Little things like identifying his protectors, using his cadence to his advantage. So just little things that are going to help him through his game. But the one thing, Hoz, that scared me out of all this, there's been rumours that a couple of the senior players wanted him gone last week.
Wanted Caleb Williams.
They wanted him gone. They wanted Tyson Bagnet in.
Yep.
And that's the one thing. I don't care if your coach doesn't believe you, if the fans don't believe in you, I don't care. But if the locker room don't believe in you, that's where I feel you're going to struggle.
Wherever there's smoke, there's fire. I'm a Caleb Williams guy. I think he'll bounce back. I think a big part of what's been happening with Caleb Williams now for the last 2 years, it feels like, is all this hype around him. It's very hard to play in the NFL. We see examples of what Bryce Young's gone through, Anthony Richardson's gone through it. CJ Stroud had a really good year last year, struggling a little bit this year. It's very hard to play quarterback in the NFL. He'll be okay. I like what he did at the end of that drive against our Packers too, who's been really good this year, and he did enough for them to get the win. Their offensive line's horrendous. DJ Moore, despite having a fairly good game, looks like he's not engaged at all at the moment for the Bears, so they've got to figure that out. He could be one of the players that's just not feeling Caleb Williams. So it seems like there's more internal issues that are affecting him as a quarterback, but we'll see how that goes later on.
One more. Do they go with the Bryce Young experiment and rest him? Do you think it'll work?
No.
Okay.
I'd keep playing him.
Yep.
I'd keep playing him, and I'd figure out who wants to play with him. And if they don't want to play with him, and this is the most important position, and he's your number one pick, you figure out a way to work for Caleb Williams. This was a really special moment, mate. I was away a couple of weeks ago, went down to Melbourne, and I had a really pinch yourself moment interview with one of the all-time greats, Clyde Drexler from the Portland Trail Blazers, Houston Rockets, NBA champion, Hall of Famer. Here's an interview. Clyde Drexler, welcome to Melbourne, Australia, mate.
Delighted to be here. Melbourne is one of my favorite cities.
The one thing that I remember you from, Clyde, the Clyde Drexler, the finger roll. How early was that a part of your game, and why was it such an advantage for you?
I think when we played, they always were 7-footers in the lane. You got to develop a way to get your shot up over them as you drive to the basket. And so the finger roll I stole from Julius Erving and George Gervin. I grew up watching them.
Some of the greats.
Loved the way they played. And so I kind of emulated their move, try to work hard to perfect it. It worked out pretty well.
What about now in the modern game? A little bit more three-point shooting, used to get to the lane a little bit more. Are you still getting the finger roll in the modern game, or are you sitting back and shooting a few more threes?
The modern game was modern when we played. There are only a few guys that can make those three-pointers at a very high efficiency rate. Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, some of the best to ever do it. Not a lot of other people going to make those shots on a consistent basis. So you got to have a meat and potatoes diet of something you can depend on.
Yep.
You know, I don't want to depend on if my shot is working or if it's not. That's a long shot.
Yeah.
But if I can get in that paint and go tear the rim down, I'm not going to miss that very much.
Is there any comparisons in the modern day game that you think it's got a little bit of Clyde Drexler about him?
Well, I mean, we were all court players. We could do mid-range, long range. We did a little bit more in transition. We exploited that a little bit more. But we didn't depend on the long-range game as much as they do in today's game.
Yeah.
And so you have less 7-footers, but they take more threes.
Yeah.
Even the 7-footers are taking threes. So the game is evolving. Is that good or bad? I think it's about efficiency.
Yeah.
If you got a team that can make them, it's great. But if you can't make them, you're going to get beat.
Is that the major difference in the shooting guard position?
I think great players transcend positions. The position doesn't tell you what to do. You do what you want in that position. And great players can play 1, 2, 3, or 4.
Yep.
In my era.
Yep.
So you couldn't be limited to just one thing.
You prided yourself on versatility.
Absolutely. Yep. Versatility, diversity. I mean, the game, well, you did whatever it took to win. Yep. If it meant blocking shots or getting steals or getting rebounds, or fighting for loose balls, you do that too. But that was part of being a good player. Well, I think when you have teams, everyone has to play their role. And you got to know what your role is. We had a great coach in Houston, Rudy Tomjanovich. He was great at defining roles. So if you're on that team, you know exactly what your role is. Yeah. My role was to do everything, every game. So it was real simple.
You like that role?
I love that role. That's what I've done my whole life. So, you know, to not be limited is a wonderful thing, right?
In my eyes, looking back, and that, you know, you, Hakeem, and Charles, that's a super team.
Oh, it was. It just, had it been 10 years earlier, we'd have probably had 10 rings.
What about in the modern game with movement and how players have control and sort of like to dictate where they're going? Are you a fan of that?
I'm a big fan of that because players should have the freedom of movement. Like if you're a good player and you get selected by a franchise that's not that good, there's a reason they got a high pick because their record is terrible, right?
Yep, great.
So if they're not committed to winning, you're going to get frustrated and you should have the right to move.
You didn't like the word rebuild at Portland when they were making these changes. Portland is sort of going through that now. Are there any players that stand out to you that you think these are the guys to take Portland back to
Anthony
where they
Simons, Jeremy Grant, Thibault. You're a straight Aussie.
Yep.
But you know, Scoot has got to get healthy and prove that he can be the leader that they wanted him to be when they drafted him. But it's hard when a team is in turmoil or when they're rebuilding. But they got a lot of good pieces, but they're not putting it together. But the Rockets on the other hand,
talk about them,
the Rockets look good. Udoka is a very good coach. They got some great young players, and they play hard. They're fun to watch. So I think they're going to make the playoffs this year.
Welcome back. We've got the Pick Six presented by Tab, and Cynthia has done it again. 6 from 6, Grub. So last week when you were away, she picked the Lions over the Jaguars. She had the Packers. They just get over the Bears, which we just talked about before. The Rams over the Patriots. Vikings over Titans. Dolphins over Raiders. And the Texans today were too good for the Cowboys. 6 from 6, the third time this year.
She's on fire. She is a punting guru, and I'm glad she's a part of the show.
Yeah, so am I. Cynthia's Pick Six for this week is...
Horum Grub, it is great to bring you a Week 12 Pick 6. Let's start with a Thursday night football matchup, which means you need to pick the Steelers over the Browns. You also need to add in the Dolphins over the Patriots, the Lions over the Colts, that one's in Indianapolis, the Commanders over the Cowboys, the Texans over the Titans, and last but not least, this one is my absolute favorite one, the Chiefs over the Panthers, and they're playing in Carolina.
A couple of gimmies there. Going to be following this one for sure, because last time she went 6 from 6. She backed it up with a 6 from 6 and even had a 5 from 6 not too long after that. So we'll be backing her for this week.
Chances are you're about to lose. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.
Okay, Grubby, that's the show for this week. Hoops and Hits. We did it again. We're back. Feels good. The combination's back. Point guard, shooting guard.
Yep.
We just work.
Couple of dads hanging out.
Yeah, a couple of dads hanging out.
Couple of dads with a couple of dad bods.
Yeah, the dad rigs. A bit like Johnny Jones sometimes when he's in the off-season. Thank you for everyone who helped us out through this episode. Again, remember you can find us on all the socials. And then we're going to see you next week on Hoops and Hits.
Go.